We're
I
having
know.
fun. We're having
And
fun.
see, and here we go. See, like now we're live, and I will
Yeah.
just say to scare everybody, but we don't have the intro, and I actually know this, and so it's not like me just not hitting the go live button. This is like, I mean, this is planned. So anyway, the intro will be back next week, but of course, this is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, and it wouldn't be a night without technical difficulties. So anyway, there you have it. I'm really excited for tonight's show. It is always a pleasure to be here and to have people listening from all over the planet. I am absolutely amazed at the letters, the messages that I receive, and just this week I've had a pretty astounding communication from someone that shall remain nameless at the moment. But I'm really thrilled that people are paying attention, that they're listening, and that people are capable of making logical decisions when it comes to getting UFO information. Because as we know, as you hear me blab about on every show, there's a lot of stuff out there that we deserve to expose, to know the truth about, so we can actually get to the fun stuff, which is exploring the phenomenon. I am here with my partner in crime and fellow troublemaker, Scott Brown from In the Field. I know. Have you stayed out of trouble this week?
I don't want to talk about it.
Uh-oh. Holy Mama Mia. Okay. All right. Well, I'll be talking to you after the show.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to thank everybody for getting into chat, all of you guys. Phil Leach, it's nice to see you here. But I'm really super stoked for our guest tonight because I've watched him probably a lot in the past 24 hours, especially because I had to watch Skinwalker Ranch again and again and again and again. And it kind of went on this little, oh my gosh. I mean, I was like, so like, I don't know, gripped by suspense. And then I was laughing and it's like, oh my God. I mean, it was just like all of the emotions came to me watching Skinwalker Ranch. I'm here with Steve Berg, who is an actor, director, writer. He has been in a few of my favorite things, namely Drunk History, and he was a voice on Bob's Burgers, which everybody loves. I mean, you've done a lot of work over your career. You're a comedian, and just a person that I've just have been enjoyed watching your stuff and getting to know your work over the years. I mean, you've got great photos of you sitting with Jack Black. I mean, that's
yeah. Oh well, yeah. He was did a Drunk History reenactment.
right.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. And so, are you in Nebraska right now?
Yeah, I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. During the pandemic, my wife and I bought a house here because I kind of panicked bought a house here because I'm originally from here. My parents still live here, and like I was stressing out about them being by themselves because we don't have any family close. So I was like, man, I like have to be there for them. And a lot of my friends were kind of like doing sort of the same thing, I think, at that time. And not a lot, I mean some, but anyways, yeah. So I've moved to Omaha, and I just kind of go back and forth for work right now. And eventually I may have to be back in LA, but with technology, you can do a lot now.
It's kind of frightening, isn't it? Or you can't.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, you are at its mercy. If it does not work, you're just, nothing can get done.
Operator error, mostly in my case.
Yeah.
But so Nebraska has got, I mean, that's an unusual, I mean, you've got some great UFO sightings there.
We do.
And I love that. And I've heard you talk about it before, but give us some of your favorite Nebraska sightings.
Oh man. Well, the Herbert Schirmer story is obviously the police officer in the mid-60s who was had the UFO encounter, and then under regression learned that he was a contactee. That is great. I've been out to Ashland, Nebraska so many times just to go sit like on the area. I mean, to me, those places become so mythical and important, like whether they happened or not. It's the places are still like sacred to me, like a holy land. So I go out there and visit and try to talk to people. And then there's, even though I know it's a hoax, I think it's such a funny hoax, the Reinhold Schmidt case, which is back in the 40s, I want to say. No, probably the early 50s, and that is just a funny one. But Nebraska, like I'm trying to think of other ones we're famous for. There was a case that Jacques Vallee loves that happened in Council Bluffs, which is basically a bordering town next to Omaha, of where a UFO dropped like slag metal, And that's actually some of the metal that they're testing at Stanford right now is from there. So that place, and that's kind of a sacred, special case to me too, just because it's local. So, but Nebraska, when you do a little digging, we have a ton of high strangeness and Forteana stuff. As Ray Boucher was talking about some of it. In fact, I want to get back to that because I went on a field trip after listening to your show with him.
That is so cool. Okay, you've got to tell us about this. This is so cool. And I
You
was
want me
super
to-
stoked that you were listening.
Oh, dude, yeah.
It's
Oh,
so
I love your
cool.
show. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the show. So you had Ray on, which that was cool because I feel like I don't see Ray do a ton of shows like this, and he's such a legend from that generation. Like when he was a teenager, he was talking to John Keel and Gray
Right.
Barker, like on the phone. Like I don't know, that's like a TV show in my mind. Like I'm a teenager.
Yeah, absolutely.
With like all these. I mean, it's to me that's like I'm so jealous of hearing that when I hear like teenagers getting involved so early. Like it's amazing. It's amazing to me. But so he was mentioning a ghost town called Minersville, close to Nebraska City, where he grew up. And after your show, and he was talking about all this stuff, and it was kind of like almost a Mothman type, Keelian vibe about it, where there was a flying humanoid, a lot of Sasquatch type creatures, and other, odd things happening. And so the next day, I had a free day until late afternoon. So I got up and I drove out to this place.
No way.
And it was genuinely really it
weird.
gave me the willies, man. It's all private property, so I couldn't roam around, but there's a ton of forest. It's this dark little it's really kind of unsettling when you go down there. And one thing I thought that was kind of interesting, it's right by the Missouri River, which is a huge, massive, one of the biggest rivers in the country. And it's a massive, powerful river. It's right by it. And then there's a power plant right by it too, which, John Keel always talked about Operation Trojan Horse and the tower. And I think even in Point Pleasant, there was a big power plant, right?
Yes.
So I was like, oh, wow, a big connection, a power plant, river, and then this ghost town where, it doesn't even exist anymore, really. And there was a ton of high strangeness. So I got really excited about that little pattern connection. And that was because I watched your show. I went and journaled about it that night. It was really important to me. Yeah.
Baby, that really makes me happy.
Yeah, I like to get out there as much as possible. That to me is the most exciting part of all this stuff.
I think so too. And I know with the pandemic and everything, we've all, we just haven't done that as much. And it's been a fun thing for me over the years to go different places and to explore things and meet people or sit in sit in a bar and talk to all the old, towns, all the old townsfolk.
Well, it's very valuable though, because I actually am a firm believer in in kind of anthropological method of getting into this stuff. So if for instance, when I've been going to Ashland, the small town of Ashland, every couple months trying to get to know the people, because there's other weird things that are happening there, not just the Herbert Schirmer case. And the more I learned about the culture of the town, who the people are, what kind of restaurants to eat, I swear more synchronicities, or at least synchronicities to me, start popping up. So I think embedding yourself in whatever the microcosm you're in is a pretty good way to go, I would think.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. And it is trippy. And it's amazing to see how, especially when you get close to Skinwalker Ranch or different things like that. It's this strange bubble, and
well, you're in a great zone, right? Are you in Salt? I don't want to give up your location.
Yeah, well, it's okay. Everybody else knows.
Sorry. Yeah, it's in Salt, right? It's not, you don't hide it. But wow, you have so much. You went to Basin. That you could spend a month there and probably not even come close to scratching the surface on interesting things to check out.
Oh my God, it's amazing. I have a love-hate relationship with Utah right now. But it is so amazing for many, many reasons. It's a beautiful state.
Oh, it is.
I love just everything here. Politically, well, maybe not so much.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm in the same boat, kind of. But whatever.
It's one of those things. But
yeah,
it really, it's interesting. I love, Doug Way. We've got all of these great things and some really, really neat cases that I've investigated personally. We had
Ooh.
when I was MUFON state director, we had a great case, the American Airlines Flight 434 case, and that was one that you can Google and see. We did FOIA requests for radar returns and audio recordings from the flight crew, and it was very, very interesting at the end of the day what transpired. And then we also had there was a mass sighting here in Utah on October 2nd, 2014. It was
Really?
daytime. And there were these white spherical objects that were moving across. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, moving across Salt Lake Valley. And then the next day they were seen in Colorado, and a really incredible Matt Renaud is a news reporter, picked up on the story over there. But I got a call from Fox 13 News, and they were like, okay, can you give us a comment on this? And there were a lot of pictures. It was very interesting. Again, I did a FOIA request for radar data on that. And, people were saying that there were F-16s in the area, and that was corroborated by what we got on the radar data. But it was fascinating.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Utah is just it's so cool. And I think because of our military presence, that a lot of the stuff is locked down, because in likelihood, some of it could be testing.
Right.
And, but who knows?
Do you think like the military presence is part of the draw for high strangeness? Or but it's, Utah has such a storied history going way back before, Europeans were even here, right? I mean, like, there's a lot of old lore, going back, but I wonder if the military presence is another conductor for it,
Yeah, I've wondered that myself over the years, or maybe they just use the UFO narrative to cover up covert operations.
I'm sure they do.
I'm quite sure they do. It is very interesting. But I wanted to ask you too, because I got a question in chat. The place that you went to, was that Minerstown?
Yeah, Minerstown. It's if I think it comes up on Google Earth. It's a ghost town. Without going into too much history, but it was like it's pretty much been a ghost town for 100 years ish, I think. But it's close to Nebraska City. That's kind of the landmark, so you could start there and find it on a map, or Google Earth. I'm sure has it.
Wow.
Yeah, check it out though, man. You'll see the power plant. You'll see the Missouri River, and it's very forested. So
interesting.
I love it. I'll be back out there.
Well, if you ever come to my neck of the woods, I'll give you a tour.
Would you really?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I will take you up on that. I love Utah. That's a place I would like to go and just like spend a lot of time.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And I've worked there like 3 or 4 times for extended periods, and I've always had such a good experience in Salt Lake.
You know what? We have some really nice people here, and it's a great place to explore, like you said. And I'd be more than happy to take you to my favorite haunts, and then we could do a little drive-by at Skinwalker Ranch.
Hey! I drove up
to
I did the obligatory drive to the gate. And it's funny, I drove like 4 hours out of my way one time to go there. And then I went to the gate, and I got in my car, and I got nervous. I wait for the car. I'm like, oh boy. I chickened out. I was like, I'm gonna look around a little bit. No, I got nervous. Like all of a sudden I had like a military feeling, and I was like, oh boy, they're gonna get me.
Given I can speak from experience, some of the people that were on the ranch carrying firearms, I'd probably run too, but that's just my own personal experience. I'm telling you. But so I want to talk. So let's talk about like you and when you were a child, and like how you first discovered your passion for this, because I always think that's such an interesting story, and it's probably very similar to ours.
Yeah, I had this memory going back. I think I was like 5 or 6. It wasn't like it was like really young, anything impressive. But my mom got me my first library cards at the Omaha Public Library, and she's like, check out some books, do what you want. And I came back. I don't remember picking them, but I remember having them, and it was like a Billy Meyer like a picture book with just all like the metal, like ridiculous looking crafts, which as a kid, I thought they were like gorgeous, beautiful art. And I still do. I think artistically, they're wonderful.
Oh yeah.
They really are beautiful photographs.
Right.
But it was like that in a book about magic. So my mom's like, well, great. We have a weird one. And she was a school teacher, and she really promoted reading. And, she was always all through my childhood, even all through high school. She was like, I'll buy you as many books as you want. I don't care there as long as you're reading. I'm like, great. So we go to the bookstore and I go right to the occult section or like the
Yep.
New Age section, which
Yep.
was what was called back in the 80s. And I'd be like, yep. Life after death. You bet. Bigfoot. Yep. Ghosts. And I just devoured all of it. And I became like a voracious reader when I was a kid because of my like obsession with this stuff. You know, I'd probably be digging ditches right now, or being some kind of idiot. But I actually credit my fascination with this stuff for actually like helping me grow my brain in a significant way that school probably could not have done.
See, and that is so cool. And I mean, I feel the same way because you learn so much more
You
about
do.
everything.
You
I mean,
do.
it has expanded my knowledge in many, many ways.
Yep.
Some for the better, some for the, I mean,
Yeah. No, I
but
agree
it's
because
cool. I love it.
when you get deep into this stuff, like Fortiana in general, you at a certain point can't only read books about this stuff. You have to start reading books about philosophy and like art history and just like even just narrative structures or kind of Carl Jung, Terrence McKenna stuff. Like the
Right.
amount of different avenues I feel like that I need to go research just so I can understand the high strangeness better I'm telling you, it's like, I feel like I'm just still in college and I'm just absorbing this stuff because, for like, I read almost all of Philip K. Dick's books. He was like, it'll help me understand the nature of reality better. And it has actually, like, so yeah, I mean, like what UFOs have done for my brain is a very positive thing. So
Good.
I always try to stay in kind of like there's a lot of negative stuff in
Right.
this field, as we all know. And like that stuff is I'm pretty adverse to that.
That is awesome. That is really awesome. I mean, I think, Scott and I sometimes can get, we go, I think with me personally, the Skinwalker Ranch has been a very dark chapter in
Right.
my history, but, it's like finding the good and the positive. And for me, a huge positive is having this show,
Yeah.
every Friday and seeing people from, like I said, all over who are here, who are asking good questions, who have information. And hi, Steve, just got in there, and hi, all you guys, Spaghetti Lee. I just want to
There's
thank
someone
all of
named
you.
Spaghetti. Fantastic. I
Yeah,
just ate spaghetti. Great name. Great name.
that is a
It was
little
good.
creepy now. You're freaking me out.
Oh yeah.
And Amy and everybody, I just thanks. You guys are just awesome. I love it. We have the best listeners, I
You
think.
do. Good energy. Good fun energy.
Very, very
It's
good.
Friday. Let's have some fun.
I know, that's exactly
Right?
it. And I just exactly.
We're talking
And
about UFOs. They're fun.
you know what? It really is. Like you said, it's a fascinating subject. And there's so many interesting characters in the field and stories, and just I love, like, for me, and I know Scott's the same way. It's like just sitting down and talking with people. And I have a Pilates studio. I think God and everybody knows that, where to find me. Here you can come here. But it's like everybody that comes in, obviously they're seeing the backdrop here because my equipment is right there. And it's like it's just so fun to see people kind of break down their barriers and start to talk about things, whether it's paranormal or a UFO sighting that their father had when they were in the military. Or, I had a client that came in that was best friends with one of the Sherman children growing up.
Oh, very cool.
And things. And so, I mean, it's just, you never know
You
what you're going to
don't.
hear.
You don't. And I always feel like with this subject, and maybe this is just my own superstition I'm putting on it, but I would feel like you go in wanting an answer about something, and then you find 100 more questions that are way more interesting. Like that continually happens to me for a sense as long as I can remember.
Me
I'm like,
too.
you know what I mean? It's like you want to learn about something, and you're like, in order to learn about this microcosm of the UFO or ghost, whatever, you have to go through so much other stuff, but then you find patterns. And I mean, it's just, to me, the adventure, like, and I'm sorry, I want to back up one thing. I just want to say, like, I feel so privileged to have been able to dedicate such a large part of my life to looking at this stuff. Not everyone gets to, man. Like, I mean, clearly that means I've had a privileged life. Like, I don't have to have 4 jobs and like I have 7 kids to feed, and my life is really difficult where you don't have time. It's like I obviously get to live a very examined life where I can read about UFOs for hours at the end of the day, pretty much every day. We're pretty lucky, I think, because like we're not starving. It's like we get to do this, and I feel like it's such a fun world to examine, and I'm just thrilled I get to do it.
I think I love that. I mean, then again, thank you. It's like, bringing Ray on the show I mean, just talking to you and having people that I just am, just, oh my gosh, it makes me energized.
Yeah, well, you
And
had
it's,
great guests. That's
thank you.
yeah,
Thanks to Scott too. Scott's been
yeah,
just
Scott.
pulling it out. He's been
The
really doing a good job, but I love finding people that are kind of off the beaten path. And I think that's, people that a lot of times won't come forward publicly
right,
because, everybody can tune into this kind of, this show and hear the same people on the speaking circuit with the same thing over and over again. But
right,
I mean, I'm really lucky that I've developed relationships with some of these people, like my mentor, Barry Greenwood,
yeah,
Jan Aldrich, people like that who can help me establish relationships with people and build trust.
right.
And I know Scott's worked very hard at that too, to establish trust with people. And that's been one of the biggest privileges for me over the years, is to establish some of these friendships.
Yeah,
It's really cool. I've learned
yeah.
so much.
I can imagine, and as I kind of get more friends and new friends, my new buddies, like it is nice because some of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life have been in this field. Do you know what I'm saying? I guess
Yeah.
we all just have like a sort of it's like, here's reality, and then like we're all kind of like trying to peek behind that the curtain to see like what's really happening. Like I feel like there's like a shared deep sense of curiosity and adventure when you are really into this stuff, not just like passively into it, but like it's like an important thing in your life. And I feel like it's like we're all reliving the Goonies all the time. I mean, I
That is
just
a great
love
way to
it.
put it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was such a cute movie. Actually, I really
yeah,
like that movie,
sure.
Blast from the Past. But yeah, I mean, it's it's who do I talk to at the end of the day? Who are my BFFs? I mean, I mean, they're nerds. We're all
Yeah,
nerds. I love it.
yeah,
We
yeah.
get to
And you know
talk
what
about this.
nerd stands for? Never ending rad dude or
So,
dudette, dude/dudette.
Right.
So come
Steve,
on.
do you find that there's only, like Erica's saying, for us on a Friday night, we get to talk to people that are interested in it. If I was to mention, you know, the Travis Walton case to my wife,
Right.
she doesn't even know what that is.
No, my wife does not either.
So it's like being around certain groups of people and you can talk about it, and
Yeah.
it's not the same as in your regular most of your life.
Well, yeah, it's funny because I went to a UFO convention a couple weeks ago, and I was like doing some MC work as a favor for a friend, and I got to meet so many great people. And the wonderful thing is, you go have a couple beers, and there's no shorthand. I don't have to like have this pretense of explaining myself. Okay, there's this case called Travis Walton it was in Snowflake, Arizona. He is 5 loggers, and like by the time I'm like setting them up to understand my point of why I'm bringing it up, they're like, oh man, like this guy's droning on again. Like, but what I ask everybody I meet, if I've known you for 5 minutes, I'll ask them if they've had a high strange experience. And I swear, for some reason, I mean, my dental hygienist just told me about a great UFO story last week. I mean, like, because I asked, like, and I swear 2 to 3 people have had something that they can't explain that is, that they can't stop thinking about. It's
Right.
weird. I haven't, unfortunately. I've had nothing weird.
Nothing.
I mean, and I have put myself into every position too. Like I go to some weird places. I am actively trying to do this, like every week. Like my wife's like, just like don't do it in the house, and I'm like, fair enough.
What have you tried? Have you tried to? I mean, what have you tried?
Well, and when I say try, I mean, like, what does that even really mean? I mean, with UFOs, that's the thing that's like frustrating about UFOs is like, how do I go out and find them? I don't know yet, but I will go to these places like, a place like Minersville that Ray recommended. There's a lot of them in this area. So I try to go check them out. I'll go to a spooky haunted house where there's poltergeists and pay $10 to take a little tour. But I mean, like every time I go out of town or work a job on a location shoot, on my days off, I'll find the weirdest place or the most high strange place close to me, and I will absolutely visit it. Like, no doubt. That's what I do for fun. Like
Sweet.
Yeah. So I really, and that's part of my like, how COVID, it was a scary thing for all of us. And hopefully a lot of us had like, it was a moment to have a big realization, you know, and like maybe a slight evolution in who we, you know, like
I'm not sure that worked for a lot of people.
It didn't work for a lot of people, and I'm sad about that.
I know that's true.
It definitely had a big impact on me. And one of the things was like, no more dreams deferred. Like I'm going to, if I want to go to a UFO conference in the Ozarks in Missouri, I'm gonna go, man. I'm not gonna talk about going and how I should do that stuff. I am going to go now. If there's a weird haunted barn in like northern Iowa, I'm taking a road trip, man. I'm going solo. I don't care. I'll listen to you know, Operation Trojan Horse on the way, and I'll have a great time. Keel is the best road trip book. All those books are perfect for road trips.
Well, that would get you primed, wouldn't it?
It does. I'm trying to prime myself.
Wow.
I need tips.
I mean, and that's, you know, I mean, it's like, why do certain people experience things? Why don't, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I still trying to figure it out. Lord knows I've had a few experiences, but
have you?
know, oh yeah. I think that's.
I don't want you to have to be redundant in like, you know, because you probably talked about them, and I'm sure I've heard them, and it'll jog my memory. But
you know, I you know, like you, I grew up reading, you know, interesting books and things, and then I mean, I lived in a haunted house, I guess, for lack of a better word, and it was really amazing. It was built in like 1907. It was next to an old polygamous compound.
Okay.
And my partner, husband at the time, was working late at night. He was a bar owner, club owner in Utah, in Salt Lake. And so I would notice, like, I would go into the bathroom and the toilet lid and seat would be up, which, I mean, okay, didn't happen when he was home. I mean, it's just, you know, I mean, which is odd. It's like, okay, whatever. Or I would be in the bathtub and something would come off the shelf and hit a wall. I mean,
that's dramatic.
I mean, it was very interesting. And I remember one night I was watching TV and I went through the kitchen and I said, you know, I mean, I saw a man leaning against the kitchen counter, dressed in a white t-shirt, jeans, and I went to bed and he was sleeping. And so I just said, you know, I woke him up and I said, okay, I need to just tell you, I've been seeing some things around here, and you know, what do you make of that? And he said, since we bought the house, I've been seeing a man in different rooms out in the backyard, and I didn't want to say anything. I wanted you to validate that for me.
Whoa.
And so it was really, you know, that was a trip. And I mean, I just stuff that would be absolutely insane.
Did it change your worldview a lot?
You know what? It was just cool. I mean, I had that, you know, I'd had an open mind, you know, and I was trying to put it through its paces, and I appreciated that about him as well, because it was like he was not going to say anything until I said something to him.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that, you know, about that. And I think it was really, it was a trip. I mean, there's one experience. I don't really talk about this a lot, but anyway, this really freaking happened. I've got it on video somewhere, but I had a really strange dream one night. And in the dream, I was in this room with all of these porcelain figurines, and this voice just, you know, there was this light coming through the window, and this voice just said, "I won't scare you. I'll move drapes."
What?
And I know. It sounds crazy. This is why I never tell the story.
No, I love when it's like all surreal like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, what do you mean? You know, how can I look this up in a dream book? And the next day I got home and we had radiated heat. And so I got home and we had a series of blinds, you know, and about 6 windows in our house. And I noticed that the middle blind in the middle of our home was swinging back and forth. I mean, just boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, okay, this is odd because the door's shut. You know, what could this be? Blah, blah, blah. I sat there and videotaped that. I thought it was really strange. And it went on and on for, I mean, probably half an hour, I guess. Whoa. And my husband got home and took a Zippo out of his pocket and held it up, and the flame was perfectly still. And so there wasn't really a draft.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was just a really strange
Yeah, that's weird.
thing. And so, you know, whether you just put two and two together, I don't know. It was odd, but I definitely, you know, had multiple people that were in that home over the years that had different experiences, and whether that was just because it was the power of suggestion and they were getting caught up in that, I don't know. But
Who knows?
it was
Yeah.
really it was a trip. It was a
That's
trip.
amazing. But it seems like it wasn't something that like, like scarred you or damaged you, but it might just made you more curious.
It, you know, I think most people would be like, okay, I'm right, you know,
Yeah.
I'm done. You know, I see, you know, a doorknob turn, or I see something like that. They would have been out of there. And I just, you know, I mean, there were a couple times when I was frightened.
For
But I
sure.
think whatever it was to me felt just benevolent, I guess.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was a trip. And I had a
Wow.
news station that actually came out and did a story, about a
Really?
2-day story on it and
Oh
things.
man.
It was so cool for Halloween, of course. It
That's
was really, really
awesome.
cool. Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. And so it just opens your mind, and you know, you learn about things and see people's reactions, and whatever it was a fun time in my life. So
Yeah, for
and I'll
sure.
always
That's
be
what a great experience. I mean, that's kind of like a confirmation experience, right? I mean, like, I mean, not a confirmation of what, right? But it's that there's like a hidden force or a hidden intelligence. I mean, like, that's what I'm looking for, right? Because it's like belief is a word I don't love to use. So I feel like I know there's something to all this phenomenon or whatever, but I just haven't had that experience where I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm not validated, but like, like it is real,
right,
like
right.
I hope I have that, but if I don't, that's okay too.
But it's fun trying,
It
and
is.
it's
Oh, it
fun
is.
going on those adventures, and
It
I
is.
mean, it's just, yeah, it's a trip.
It is.
And yeah, I don't know. But so, okay, so I want to get back to your, you know, okay, so you're reading all these books. Your
Right.
family's relatively okay because you're expanding your knowledge.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were cool with it.
were your friends like?
Like they were like, I was an eccentric kid, probably. Anyway, I was like, like when Twin Peaks came out, like when I was like 13, I became like obsessively like into Twin Peaks and started watching David Lynch movies. And like, so I was kind of like the weird like guy who was like watching The Clockwork Orange, and I'll meet you guys out later. I'm like 14, so like I was into a lot of punk rock culture.
Okay,
So
okay.
I was always really attracted to kind of like outsider art in general. So being into UFOs, I think people were just like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense for Steve. And I started going to in 7th grade, my English teacher, who was super cool, she let me she would let me out of class to go to these monthly UFO lectures, and I would get to write about it. And so this professor at a local college, Dr. Jack Casher, would give these lectures, and they were so exciting to me. But that's when I kind of like, oh, I'm like really into this stuff. And then Ray Boucher would put on these, him and this guy named Scott Colburn would put on these wonderful, and they had great people like Jacques Vallee, Stan Friedman, a lot of the luminaries of the era in the 80s would come there to do these big kind of like 2-day events. And I went to a couple, and they were just like life-changing. I remember, when I was a kid shaking Stan Friedman's hand, I'm like, this is Elvis, man. Like, at the time, I was like, honestly, like dumb. It was like meeting the biggest celebrity in the world to me. And I still feel that way about like a lot of that kind of generation of like ufologists or people who study heist. I have read their work, so I feel like this intimate relationship with them, even though I've never met them. But like, so when I meet these people like Jacques Vallee, like I feel like I was having a minor panic attack. I was my back was sweating. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening.
You have the cutest video. I love your video, and I'm sorry that we were having some issues and stuff when but I mean, it's so fun to watch you because you were just like, oh,
Yeah, I went back and called my friend Eric after that, and I was just like all breathy. He's like, yeah, man, you did it, dude. He's like, I just had to like talk to somebody immediately. It was,
super nerd.
Yeah, and I've
Dang.
met I've been around a lot of famous people for work.
Right.
and worked with a lot of famous people actually, and that is like nothing. Like actors don't like that does not like. I'm like, oh cool, I'm like, it's Ted Danson, he's great, but it's not like meeting Jacques Vallee,
Right.
Wow.
for me, so
That is so cool.
yeah.
Was it, I mean, what was he like meeting him in person?
He was super cool. He's like just sharp as a tack, and I had I love his Forbidden Science books, the volumes 1 through 4. They're like kind of my favorite. For me, they're the most valuable books on my shelf behind me. And I was, asking about when the 5th one's coming out, and he's like, next year, and we talked about how it's going to cover, from 2000 to 2010. And I was just like I was saying, like, I love how personal they are. And just hearing what your view in the world was politically or whatever, like
Right.
he's just he's one of those people who will be I believe will be remembered for as long as humankind is around.
And nerds exist, and
Yeah,
nerds walk
nerds
the earth.
exist. Yeah. I mean, he's just in so many different disciplines, he has made a very large contribution to a lot of things that are important, I think.
Wow, that must be. I mean, I've always, I've not met him, and I think that would be very interesting
Yeah.
to meet him because I hear he does have that demeanor of, Frenchman.
There's something special about. I mean, he is
And those blue eyes,
handsome,
those steely blue eyes.
he's got the best head of hair you ever seen in your entire life. He's a handsome man.
No wonder
I mean,
the
he
women
just-
love him.
They must. I mean, women love him, men want to be him.
Were there like little groupies kind of following him around?
Surprisingly not.
What?
Like I mean, there were definitely people who were like excited and like really thrilled to see him, but he was not like I think there's a lot of people in the UFO world who would garner a lot more like fanfare for a lot of people. But for
Like
me,
who?
I mean, I'm sure like Richard Dolan probably has more fans than Jacques Vallee. I mean, I bet he's a bigger draw at a conference than Jacques Vallee. Sadly, I'm not saying that's how I view it at all, but like he's a very he's like I mean, I guess he's a popular kind of mainstream UFO guy. Where Jacques Vallee has like always been kind of like out of the mainstream. He was like a UFO heretic in the 70s and 80s. They're like interdimensional or like control system, cultural thermostat, and people were like pshaw. And now even still he is. I mean, largely, because this stuff requires reading Jacques Vallee, you need to be familiar with Hermeticism, the history of alchemy, the history of the Rosicrucians. Like he requires a lot to understand. I tried to read him as a kid, and I felt the same way when I was like 14. I think I read, oh God, I can't. It might have been Invisible College, and I was just like too young to understand. I was like, what? Like I don't get it, man. I wanted more of an X-Files thing, I wanted Area 51, the saucers, Lazar. That's what I wanted as a kid, and now I'm like, whatever to that stuff. It's pretty boring, actually.
Well, so what do you think about Messengers of Deception?
I think that is probably the most prescient book of the era that I would, if I was because now I'm in more of an elder statesman, I'm middle-aged. If I was to talk to a group of young UFO people or people who are getting into it, I'd be like, you should I would give them, I would give them Messengers of Deception, American Cosmic, and Operation Trojan Horse. And I would say,
and Clear Intent. And Clear Intent.
Wait,
Clear Intent.
Wait. Who wrote Clear Intent?
Barry Greenwood and Larry Fawcett.
I've never read that actually.
Oh, you have to put that
I'm
on
writing
your
it down right now.
list.
I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah,
I've
that's
never
a
read
good
that. Clear Intent.
Yep, that is really important. It's good. You'll like it.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
absolutely.
I will order it tonight. I promise.
Yes, and good luck. I mean, I think I don't even know how much they're selling for these days, but it's really a must read.
I have been known to buy late night UFO books for way too much money. It's and then the next morning I'm like, what did I do?
You're like some people I've heard that get on like what is that? What is the shopping channel?
The shopping network.
Oh, QVC, yeah, and
QVC.
they like zombie order things.
Yeah.
I zombie order you 40 Anna books, and I did though. It'll be like 1:34 in the morning. I purchased that. Oh God, like, oh, I didn't need the first printing of that.
I do that with makeup, because
we all everything.
I mean, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah,
Clearly, that's those are not working for me these days. But
you have to indulge.
But you do, and I mean, I'm so blessed that I've been like with my archive. And that's another reason you need to get to Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Because just, I mean, the books that I have, I mean, I have over 1,000
Ooh-wee.
books that are, I mean, just very rare. It's an amazing collection. So,
Oh, that's good.
and all
The
the
only books I
research
really
and-
keep are like, are books on high strangers. Everything else, novels, I kind of just give away. I'm like, have this, or I can give to Goodwill. But those I kind of keep. I pared my collection down quite a bit when I moved, but yeah, I'm not giving. Behind me, that's my essentials.
Sweet. So what else is on your shelf?
Oh man, well, I mean, I think I have every Keel book, every Vallee book. Those are like pretty much my favorites. And then I have a few Christopher O'Brien books because I really like his work in the San Luis Valley. His stuff is kind of John Keel. It's fun. Let's see. I got and then I have a couple old schoolers. I got a Stanton Friedman book. I got some. I've been a lot of new. I love Joshua Cutchin's work. I love his. I love
He's an
all
interesting
his.
guy.
I love his books.
I like him
so much. Like he got me down this road where I've been reading books about like ancient fairy lore the last year, and I am just loving it. And
it's amazing.
It's amazing. It is so amazing how it locks in with the UFO.
Yes.
It locks. And not only that, it locks in with the ghosts. It locks in with Sasquatch. Every cryptid, like. It might be like it's so important to look at those books. I believe, like,
yes,
absolutely,
yeah. And to me, he kind of took what Vallee did in Passport to Magonia and took it further down the field. So,
that's one of my favorite books by Jacques.
Agree. It's a+ classic. I've probably read it 3 times.
So, well, I think that is so cool, and I'm sitting here, and I'm gonna have to walk over there in a second. And get some of those books because I'm gonna make you jealous.
Oh, yeah. Well, UFO book club.
I know. I mean,
don't tempt me.
Yeah. Well, okay. Hang on 1 second, boys. I'll be right back. Scott, right. you continue this. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
We'll talk amongst ourselves, Scott.
So I got a question for you.
Please.
So now, with your history and your interest in the subject. Did you actively campaign to get that part in the movie?
Well, the actual idea for the movie, I wrote the story with another guy named Devin McGinn.
Oh, so
I co-directed, co-produced it. So the original idea was sort of mine and a guy named Devin McGinn. I had heard about the Skinwalker Ranch story from George Knapp on Coast to Coast one sleepless night, and I oh my God, this is like everything I wanted in one place. Then I went out and bought his book, read it like in one sitting, and then I pitched this idea because I was actually at the time in Utah shooting a movie, an indie movie, and I pitched the idea when I was working on the movie to the guy who's financing the movie. And he's like, "I love it. I'll give you X amount of dollars." I was like, "Really? I don't even have a script, man." And he's like, "Let's do it." And I was like, "Okay," so. It kind of just happened like that. He liked that it took place in Utah, and then I kind of described. I really pitched did my best to pitch like what the book was, and put my own like little flavor on it. And he on the spot offered us financing. I was like,
"Wow, that's really unheard of."
Yeah,
it absolutely is. Yeah, so it was super lucky, and I really wasn't probably. I was still green in terms of writing and being behind the camera. So it was like, I probably bit off more than I could chew. I hadn't even written the story to it yet. So yeah, but that's how that happened.
Wow.
And so with the research that you did for that, I mean, obviously you've been researching it before, but I mean, where else did you go? How else did you?
But at the time I did it, there was just such limited stuff out there. It was really like old Coast to Coast shows, which were like 2, and then George Knapp's book. And then there was I think some stuff on the internet, but it was 2009 or 2010. And really it had not broken out into a mainstream, Skinwalker Ranch is now, is almost as big as Area 51, probably, it's becoming a household, name in the UFO world. Which it wasn't at the time. So that's why I was so excited about no one's really heard of this, other than hardcore people. So I thought I was beating everyone to the punch, and I did. No. And it was
Yeah, I
fine.
mean,
It was far from perfect, the movie. So,
I just have to, like I mean, I thought it was great. I mean,
oh,
I
thanks.
I did
really
too.
like,
I did too. I
Thank
really liked it.
I
yeah,
appreciate that. We did our best with a small budget, and we had to shoot it I mean, it was not easy conditions. It was pretty grueling. It was not like the typical LA shoot where I like get nice meals in a trailer, and it was not that at all. We were like sleeping in a really nasty hotel and like
I
eating
bet.
Subway every day. Like it was not the easiest.
Wow.
It's funny. I told you that I mentioned because I was looking through the credits and things, and I saw, Alex Boynton and a couple of my friends that were working, with you
Yeah.
on the movie and things. And he was, I asked him where you guys shot what your locations were. And I mean, it was just interesting. You guys were all around, and I loved the
Yep.
way that in the movie you have, when you've got the frontage road.
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of that looks very, very similar. I mean, it's great. You did a good job.
And again, that was one of those just kind of like lucky things because the guy who is the financier had just purchased a ranch out in Idaho, in Montpelier, Idaho. And so it all worked out. He's like, when I was pitching it, he's like, you know what? I just bought a ranch. He's like a very wealthy Utah guy. And he says, I just bought a ranch so we can shoot it there. I was like, okay, man, this is working out. Oh my God, I love it. So yeah.
Wow.
But thank you. I felt like the location felt pretty close to what the book felt like. So I was very excited about that.
No, that was awesome. And seeing the wolf and things brought back memories of certain things. Whatever that means. Okay, I've got to get up.
We all have big dire wolf memories, sister. You're not alone, okay?
That was one of the dumbest things I've said.
No, it wasn't.
That's saying a lot. So
I've said about 90 dumb, way far more ridiculous.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Okay. Anyway, so I've got to just do this really quick before we get back to Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh my God, Gray Barker! They knew too much about flying saucers. Classic. And that's an old version. Mm-hmm. Albert K. Bender.
Yeah. I mean, these are like first editions.
That's some red hot literature right there.
Yeah, and
burn in your hands.
Here's this.
I can't make out
Mothman Prophecies. So
look at that. Is that you? Oh my God! See, that is great. Look at those old covers.
Yeah.
Why were the old covers? The art was so good.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Oh yeah, that's.
I know. I'm sorry to make you jealous.
No,
but
you need. I'm not. I'm so happy for you.
Isn't this cool?
Honored to know you. You should have like a trophy case. Silver Bridge. That's a great book too. That is a great book. That
I mean, it's just like
Mothman Prophecies is so great. But
I've got Mothman. I mean, just like
I feel like there's they pair well together. Those two books.
Oh, it is so much fun. And like a lot of these, you open up and they've got this, signatures.
That's so fun.
In them and stuff. And it's just like, this is so cool. I mean, seriously, this is my nerding out on a Friday night. It's like, I just go up and pull some of these things out and just go, whoa, dude, that's such a trip.
Yeah. I hear you. You know what's so fun about these old used books too is I love to see where people write in the margins or what they highlight. Like what was important to this person about the Mothman Prophecies. To me, I'm like, and then I'm like, I will honestly like make notes about this person who read it before. This part was important. What does that mean? Look into this. And I'm like, like,
isn't that cool?
I love it.
I know. I love that too. I mean, and I do that with, Jacques Vallee's books. I mean, a lot of everything that I have that is not priceless. Like, I mean, some of this stuff, not that it's priceless, but it could be bought for a lot of money. But I think that, like for me, I go in and highlight everything and just, so I'm sure
there's books for fun. And then there's books to where like, it's actually like, I need to know this. When I read a Vallee book, I'm like, usually like, all right, I tell my wife like, I'm going to be gone for the day. And I usually read them in one sitting. Like, and I spaz out on the book and finish it. And then I'll give it some time to digest and then I'll read it again. Like there's certain authors and books where I become so obsessed. Where I'm like, for 12 hours, I'm not going to do anything and do like a never ending story day and just take this in, and to me, that's almost as good as life gets, sadly, to me, like that's like being on a beach in Hawaii, like really, it's just like falling into one of those books and losing myself is
Oh God.
wonderful.
I mean, and that's how I feel about because I'm so freaking lucky. Like, I mean, the research that I have, like the Androffel files or, like Gordon
That's so
Loore's
cool, by the
files.
way.
And it's just like, oh my gosh.
I
mean,
can't believe you have Androppel's files.
I know.
That is, oh my Lord, that must be so fun to go through.
Oh God. I mean, like every night I like go in there and just pull out like a big stack and then just sit there and go, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, literally, I mean, there were 70 plus stacked full, I mean, banker boxes that we had to take. And then her book collection and things. And I mean, this was personal correspondence. These were audio cassette interviews with Jacques Vallee and Betsy McDonald, James McDonald's wife.
Yeah,
And I mean,
sure.
just stuff that you're like, and, it's like it's like you're this kid in a candy store.
Oh.
And I love it. I can't describe it. I mean, it's like so cool. So, I mean, really you'd have to, I mean, all of you are welcome. Maybe I'll take that back, but
some of you
after a background check, but
after a thorough one. I'll
but
tell
it's
you,
just,
what's an interesting idea I've kind of had is that I had this interesting idea. I'm thinking it's interesting to me, but like I was thinking, and I don't know if I'm the person to do it, but I was like, somebody who's like a scholar of John Keel should do lectures at these like UFO conventions. Like I would love in a dream scenario to go to a UFO convention and find out that Erica Lukes is doing a presentation on Androffel. To me, because she was so vitally important to this subject.
yes,
And I think because it's kind of a male dominated subject that she was largely pushed aside. And I mean, I just think that's true. And I think it would be so beneficial for a lot of people to hear her work probably for the first time, which is sad. But like I'm not trying to put the burden on you, but
no, I would be honored to do that.
I do think that is something that as we're losing these luminaries and people who were in the subjects in the 50s and stuff, we don't have to lose their work. There's people who are really true scholars on some of this stuff, and I would love to hear lectures from them. And I just think as a live event, that would be so cool.
And I really shouldn't. I've thought about that a lot. Just even I could do, like a live streaming or do a separate show.
That'd be amazing.
About because I have all of her lectures. I mean, I've got that. They're all written out. All of her, slides, and I mean, it's just like, my God. I mean, like it is the coolest freaking thing. It is so cool.
It is.
I'm just
it
telling
is.
you,
It is.
Love it.
It is. It's so
excited.
cool. Yeah, and you should be. I mean, it's quite an honor, obviously, and you're the one to do it, though. Like take her work and do what you can to get it out there because it's really important stuff. And it's this, I'm all about sharing the knowledge. So, she had a lot to say and a really good point of view. So that's a true honor.
Yeah,
you have.
thank you. It's a blessing. I mean, I remember when Gordon Loore from NICAP and my dear friend, he called me and he said, Eric, I've arranged that I've talked to Alice Druffel and you you're going to have Anne's work. And I'm just like, I mean, I was just sobbing. I was just like literally just a wreck. I was like jumping up and down and just like I am when anybody, I mean, I've had people, Keith Chester's been so wonderful over the years to donate to the archive, Rich Vitello. There've been so many people that have donated. And it's like anytime that, these things land, here, it's like a part of a person.
Yeah.
It's like you have this and it's a very special thing to have. It's really cool.
Well, yeah, it's and not to use like a sports analogy, but it's like she had a great career as a UFO football player, right? And she ran the ball down the field and she was like, all right, cool, I'm retiring. Pitch it off to Erica and see where you can take it, because there is a lot of good stuff that you're going to learn that's probably going to, affect your research, in a new way that maybe no one else has thought of. And that is really exciting to think about, so you're a good custodian. They made the right choice.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think that it's, it's like sometimes I just feel, I mean, I just feel that connection with her. And it's really, really cool because I know that she was so detailed and rigorous in her work, and that as I can see by her correspondence, and she was just absolutely relentless. And so I can, like you said, I mean, I can take that and then put the patterns together and move forward. And that's what's been very interesting to see.
Yeah.
Her interactions with some of the same players in the subject, you know, and it's been like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, you have great
Love
book
it.
material on your hands.
I
Obviously,
know,
you
I
know
know.
that. I mean, whoa.
Yeah, I'm
Wow.
still, yes, one of these days my book with Gordon Lore will come out. We've been
Yeah,
working on that for quite some time, and
very cool.
but you know, it is cool and it's so much fun, and I love, you know, I think more than anything, I love just reading like some of the correspondence that she had with Kehoe,
Hmm.
you know, and you know, some of the, and Gordon even, I mean, some of the, and Vallee, listening to her interview with Vallee about James McDonald,
God.
that was
Yes, please,
something.
and thank you. I
Yeah,
would
that was
love.
Erica,
really something.
Erica, did you see Mario's comment in the chat room that Steve should make a film on Ann Druffel and you should play Ann Druffel?
There we go.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. You know, in terms of the dream UFO movies, I have told Greg Bishop this because my dream is to. I would love to make. I think Project Beta is like screaming to be a movie.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I want to play my dream role. If I could play any existing human being, would be to play William Moore. I could do it. I got the
You could.
beard. I'm a big guy. Like I just feel like that's the role I could play. I think I'd play a great William Moore. The movie would start off in 1984 or 1988, I think, where he had that famous MUFON speech, told everyone that he was. I mean, that is like some of the like the 80s ufology. I was a kid then, but to reading about it, it was the Wild West. It
Yes.
was like, oh,
Yeah.
it is so exciting. That's why I love Vallee's third volume about the 80s. Like, I mean, that is a great book. Like, you know, it's just, it was so fun.
And I mean, so, and a lot of people don't even know, and this is what's so sad, you know, the history gets lost and people don't know about William
Yeah.
Moore, and they
Yeah.
don't know about that pivotal moment. where he
Yeah,
got
I
up
mean,
in
that
front
was
of,
that was a big moment in UFO history that has
Yeah.
kind of largely been forgotten. And I wonder if it's because it's a message that people don't want to hear about some of their favorite stories and their favorite information being false. And it's not a comfortable thing to digest that you've been misled. So I understand why a lot of like people who are into, you know, like mainstream ufology is like, "Ugh, I don't want to hear about that. You know, Doty wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, it kind of was. I mean, like, you know, read Project Beta. You'll find out Doty was a pretty big deal. Like, you know.
and that's it. And I love Project Beta. I think that's
I
such
do
a good
too.
book. And I just love, I mean, God, I mean, I don't just, you know, the Benowitz affair. I mean, just, I mean, learning
wild.
about some of these things. It's really,
Yeah.
People think that this is, you know, a joke, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a real dark side
Oh, certainly.
to
And,
this.
and I feel like the dark side is like kind of like, not with like the players in the UFO community necessarily, but just like there's so much vitriol going on where it's like, if you don't agree with me or if you're not an activist for disclosure, then you're dead to me. Like,
Oh yeah.
you know, while I'm with the whole disclosure thing or like, you know, concept, I'm a cheerleader on the sidelines. I'm like, go for it, guys. Like, I hope that works out for you. But in the meantime, while you're doing that, I'm going to go out into the cornfields and look for like, you know, for like paranormal interdimensional Bigfoot tracks, because that's what's exciting to me. You know, like
they take the words right out of my mouth.
You know, it's like I'd rather go look at the Kecksburg acorn in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, than read another article about, oh, there's going to be a big information drop with a triangle in the sky. Like, great. And I'm not saying that's bad if you're into that. It's just not for me. You know, like
Right.
I have nothing to offer for UFO activism. In terms of activism, I'm going to worry about climate change and women's rights and equality for everyone. You know, there's bigger fish to fry than UFO than disclosure activism, is my opinion. So
I love that. I
you
love
know,
that.
like while I cheerlead those people, there's nothing I have to contribute, and I just know that. You know, like what can I do? I'm
That's
not
so
that
rad.
into it, so
No, and that's true, and it
I'd
is
be
like,
lying.
I mean, and I support, you know, a lot of those people as well. I think
Sure,
they're
me too.
really some really great people that are, you know, that are out there doing that. And I think for me, that's
Totally.
again not where I would choose to focus my energy, because I don't really need anybody to tell me something,
Yeah.
and I don't really think the government knows anything.
I don't either. Yeah, to me, it's I have a feeling that there's never been a human being who's ever existed who has any more idea of what the UFO phenomenon is there than any of us. Like, I've yet to see any evidence that is true to the contrary, right? So to think that just because they, I definitely believe that the government has a lot more data and a
Right.
lot more video, or maybe even crashed, debris, all that stuff. I am not denying that. I think there's a chance they probably do, but it doesn't mean they understand it any more than you or I.
Right.
And maybe they do. I mean, like, because they can study it on a different level. But I don't think they have the big answer that we're all looking for. Like, what is this intelligence? What do they want? Why are they here? What kind of impact do they have of the nature of reality? Which I think that is kind of the more interesting question than what are they? What impact does all this phenomenon have on consensus reality? Because I think it does have an effect. And to me, that is so interesting. Like, if you see a Sasquatch in the middle of Nebraska where Sasquatches aren't supposed to be, supposedly, and it disappears, or then you see an orange orb of light, which people describe. I'm like, that's weird, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought, and I'm not sure where
I'm going there
that.
with you.
You know
Wherever,
what I'm saying?
wherever
But
you're
like,
going, I'm going.
but just for example, it's like the orange light phenomenon or the ball light orb phenomenon. You see that with ghosts. You see that with cryptids. You see that with UFOs. You see that with almost anything high strange. Why aren't we talking about that more? And what does that mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like, if to me, UFOs were my gateway drug into everything weird.
Mhm.
And I think, like, sometimes people get a little myopic with this topic and just say, I'm going to focus on UFOs in just one little slice of it. Where UFOs to me are everything. It's life, it's philosophy, it's art. So you have to, like, I think, look at all this stuff, and then, I don't know. Sometimes I get a little frustrated with the UFO community in terms of, like, you just feel like it's a little too one note for me. Whereas that's why I like Keel and Vallee and some of these other guys are like, they're talking about a lot of different things, man.
Right.
And they're all germane to the conversation.
And I think that's so true. And I really, I mean, and all of that is fascinating. I mean, I have to go back to my bookshelf and make you jealous.
Oh
Maybe a
my
little bit more.
God, that thing. Look at
I know.
that.
I mean, I've just,
Look
it's
at
like so, I mean, it's like, and this is like not even, this is like, I've got that whole wall over there is, I mean, I'm not kidding. I don't just need to brag for a minute. It makes me feel good.
It does. No, they're material objects with good meaning, I think.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. But I mean, I love all the Fortean stuff and researching that and the
Yeah.
high strangeness. And
Yeah.
there's so many cool things to, when
Yeah.
I was really getting into this, I mean, I went to a site in Arizona, a Native American site that was absolutely fascinating, that had a long history of people going there, like Michael Persinger,
Wow.
people like that, and studying it because of the types of things that were being seen. And it was just, I love it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
I
it's
mean,
getting out there
yeah.
and being in the middle of a field and feeling the wind around
Yep.
you and knowing, just, I don't know, thinking about all the possibilities of life and
Yeah.
existence, and
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
knowing that next time you go to Norway, you need to actually buy better clothing. But
did you go to Hesklund?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to go to the bathroom. I swear it will take like it will take 17
Okay,
seconds.
I should have told you. Depends. It's a good
Yeah,
thing.
I know.
Adult
no bathroom break.
diapers.
This is live TV, folks. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, I don't know, that cracks me up. I love it. Anyway, so Scott, while we're on a little bathroom break, so you're not going to tell us about the trouble this week?
I got some stuff. Well, I guess it's not so much trouble. I
Okay,
got some stuff going on in the back burner that I can't really talk about just yet, but I sat in a man's home last night in a small little log cabin and retouched on a case in this area that I investigated with MUFON back in the early 2000s. And sat with him for about a half hour last night, and he pulled out some photos that, went along with the ones that I had taken for MUFON, but he had other ones that I had never seen before.
That's
And
so cool.
yeah, it was awesome. So this whole thing's being put together for a project that I can't really talk about just yet, but it's going to be interesting.
Awesome. That's cool. I know that you're always up to something exciting.
You got something cooking.
He
Yep.
does have. He always has something
Got to,
cooking.
man. You got
Yep.
to.
I know. I'm trying to figure out my next plan of attack. What?
That's a fun place to be, though.
Yeah, it is. I
It
keep.
is.
I have my dear friends. Like Scott and people. Okay, just get away from Skinwalker, please, dear God. Don't talk about Bigelow. No, if I just had one time, so that people can have their shots.
Yeah. He's listening for sure. Hey, though, but if it makes you happy to go after it, then I'd say do it. Like, like whatever, like, there's so many different avenues and angles on this subject that, like, to me, I'm such a hippie about it, where I'm like, I'm just gonna follow my bliss, man. And to me, that's usually where I just like really weird stories. When I hear UFO stories or contactee stories that are too organized or start sounding, whenever I hear Galactic Federation, I usually walk out of the room. I'm like, okay, bye-bye. Or it sounds too much like Star Trek. Yeah. For me, when someone says we saw a 10-foot tall rabbit hop onto a flying saucer and then Bigfoot came down and cooked us breakfast, that to me is interesting, because I think the phenomenon is surreal in nature. It doesn't make sense to us. And so, when I hear stories, if you hear like a witness who says like, it was so great, when they have a crazy surreal experience, I'm like, then it pricks up my ears. I'm like, well, they're not following any form or any previous narrative. We should listen to this person, So that's just my opinion, though, because the weird stuff really excites me.
Right.
Clearly.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, yeah, me too. I mean, I love it. I love it. I'm glad I love it, because yesterday, well, actually 2 hours ago, I hated it. Yeah, I love it again. We go back and
forth.
Well,
you're in the thick of things. You're.
Sometimes.
Just by having a show and stuff, like, people get so upset, like it's like she has a show and I don't agree with everything she says, so I'm raw. I just like what? I mean, who, like, you just can't please everyone. Like, trust me, I've been in so many projects, for TV or movies or whatever, where some people are like, hey, you're really great in that, and and then some people be like, God, you were terrible. You ruined that. I'm like, hey man, I'm just like, I don't know. It's just a job. It's only don't be so mean. I'm sensitive.
Yeah, exactly. That's been one of the things I think, Scott and I are both just so it's with some of the stuff that's happened, over the years. It's like, oh gosh, okay. That's quite interesting, but it's okay. I've definitely, I know that being on the B list or the C list or way down in a certain world is fine by me, because I don't want to be on the A list.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just I have the people who I follow, who I'm interested in. You and your show are one of them, and you tend to have a lot of the people I like on, so that suits me, But there are a lot of factions. You can't deny it within this community, and the one that you're in is a good one to be in. So I wouldn't just it's I mean, I want people to be skeptical and level-headed. We have to be discerning with this information in everything that comes out and all these new stories and stuff. And I'm open-minded, like the Angeli thing, the aliens in the cave. I followed that, not because I thought it was real, but I'm like, oh, this is interesting pop culturally to me. And there was a 0.0095 chance where I was like, maybe it's real. Maybe she'll shock us all. And that was enough for me to follow. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything out of it. What I was expecting was what happened. But I did love the story, because to me it was like National Enquirer, Bat Boy stuff, and that's fun. That's fun. Let's admit it. We can have fun. Yeah. It's fun to laugh at this topic. I did this I emceed part of this like UFO conference. I think there were some people who kind of maybe found my approach, which is like, unbridled childlike enthusiasm for it. And I was pretty light in my approach. And some people thought I wasn't taking this stuff serious enough. And I could definitely feel that vibe. But there was a lot of people who were really like refreshed by it. They're like, wow, you weren't like so like, like, hey man, there is a threat from these aliens, because like I don't buy that, man.
threat. Yeah.
There's just no evidence of that to me.
No, that's the crazy thing. I mean, sometimes I listen to, some other people speak in the subject, and it's very, yeah, the threat, the government, we've got to pick up our guns, and yeah, and it's
there's like a lot of neo Bill Coopers out there, who have kind of like co-opted the UFO topic to bring forth their favorite conspiracy theories. And to me, I could not be more turned off by conspiracy theory in general. I believe it is so wildly harmful to society and to human beings.
Very much.
So I like, to me, like, one of the things I sort of like take offense to is when like I've had UFO friends like, oh, so like, you're like a conspiracy guy. I'm like, I am not a conspiracy guy. I am a guy who likes high strangeness, 40 on, like, I am not that. So I don't like when the UFO world gets lumped in with the conspiracy world. To me, I feel like maybe one thing I want to shout from the treetops, say like, we're not that, or at least I'm not, like, pass. I want nothing to do with that world at all. Like,
I'll second that.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely something that I think, try to promote on the show, and try to talk to different people who are saying the same thing, because it does lead down some pretty dangerous paths, and it really is harmful to families and to our society. And
it is, and
things, so
just into truth in general. It's like when you mistrust everything, like, what kind of life can you possibly lead that could possibly like have any kind of happiness? Right. If you honestly are mistrusting every aspect of life, where's your joy going to come from? Right. Saying I told you so? I mean, like, I just don't understand.
I like that. That. That's really that's nice.
Well, your show's positive. And I like that. Like, you have
can I quote you?
You can, but it is. Even though you talk about difficult things, you do it in a way where I feel like it's moving the ball forward, not backwards. So
thank you.
It's okay to talk about difficult things as long as you're not like feeding the negative, the noisy negativists, as Stanton Friedman would say.
Thank you. Though that means a lot, because it is, sometimes you get, you can feel, definitely like we get a lot of pushback, I think. And so I don't want to seem like I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to be truthful. And that I think is an important thing in this subject, as you point out. So I appreciate that. That's really awesome.
You're talking about rational adult things. You're not talking about flights of fancy. So there's a difference to me. And like what you're talking about, like, there's grounds for discussion, like, it's like, all I'm trying to say is there's a difference between, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I'm trying to be complimentary.
I know what you mean. Okay, and thank you. I think that's really, really important. I appreciate it. And so, okay, I want to get back to Skinwalker Ranch, though.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, Scott.
No. I'll talk about all day.
But so you're doing this movie, and I mean, you're doing the research. Who all did the research on it? Did you have other people that were helping you?
No. I mean, I had read the book, originally, and then I read when I was kind of writing the story for it. I gave it to my writing partner Devin McGinn, who would star in the movie, and he immediately got it, and he was mildly into this stuff, and he read the book. He's like, yeah, this is fantastic. So we'd have long discussions about the book, and then I kind of like broke the book down into pieces that I sort of wanted to try to replicate in the story. There was a few, like, the dire wolf, and I mean, so much of it was, just narrative fiction. It's not a perfect book to try to make a movie out of, because it's dry in a lot of ways. They don't find a lot, like, it's just kind of anecdotal stories. So, and I know you probably have opinions on that. I wouldn't mind hearing them.
Well,
I don't want to veer off. I know I'm not trying.
No. I mean, I definitely have opinions about that. I mean, and granted, had a little marriage to somebody who worked at the ranch and worked for Bob Bigelow. And so my thoughts and feelings about the ranch, like I went from this place of like, oh my God, like I remember hearing a
Yeah.
lecture about it 15 years ago, and just thinking, whoa,
Yeah.
bro, this is so cool. I mean,
Agree.
just it's fascinating because it just it captures so much. And
Yeah.
I mean, hats off to that and creating a narrative and getting people interested and keeping them interested
Mhm.
decades after the stories started to break and the book came out. I do think that at the end of the day, it is just a testing bed for different things.
Right.
I think there are places that are strange all over the world. I don't think
Mhm.
it's confined to a 480 acre whatever it is now place. And if there really was something to it, I don't understand if it was such a dangerous thing, why the area wouldn't be locked down,
Right.
why there would still be airline flights every 10 minutes going over the ranch. There are lots of questions that I have that I think people should be kind of asking about,
Oh yeah.
About that. But it's a fun story.
It,
And
yes, it is. I mean, certainly, they basically gave you everything you wanted on a plate.
right,
Oh, you like UFOs from the paranormal? Well, we're going to put it all in one place for you.
right,
Like, it almost. I mean, I remember when I first heard it. I was like, "This is too good to be true," and maybe it's just that. I mean, I've never been there. I have no proof. I don't know anyone who personally has experienced anything there or whatever. But so they're just all anecdotal stories to me,
right.
which I still think are fun. But yeah, I'm that happened so long. Like I've kind of moved on, I guess, like to other things. There's
Cool
a lot of
things.
things there's a lot of things to be excited about in these topics.
There
So
are,
you
right. I mean,
can't
and
you can't
that's
just you know.
right. Thank you. Scott's like, yes, yes. Right on.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it's true. It's been an all-consuming thing for quite some time. And definitely I
yeah.
think I have said what I need to say and made my point many, many times. And
Right.
you're right, there are so many cool things. But I gotta ask you, like when you were filming the movie,
Yeah.
like, I mean, were there times when you couldn't keep a straight face?
Always, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
like I'm very good at not breaking like in a scene. For some reason, I just don't get like the giggles where I'm always so, especially on that, I was so concerned. Like, we gotta get on time. We have to get this. We didn't have a lot of takes, man. We were on a tight budget. But yeah, I mean, like we were laughing, and I mean, it really was kind of a party because we were shooting almost like 80% nights. Then we get done working when the sun came up. But so we like do what everyone else does after you get up done with the movie. You drink some beers and stuff. And so we were like drinking and you'd be like buzzed on like bad beer like at 9:30 in the morning. I'm like, well, I guess I better go to sleep because I have to work at 5. Like it was just a weird way to live for a while, but it was really fun. I mean, like it's kind of a young man's game, so I don't really want to do
Well, I
that
mean, it
again per se.
just, I mean, I honestly, like, I would recommend, like, honestly, people just watch it tonight, like, after the show.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
fun.
Skinwalker Ranch, it really is. It's fun. It made me,
Yeah,
like I was, there was the scene in the barn
mm-hmm.
attic, that was a good,
Yeah,
not to spoil things,
yeah,
but,
yeah, yeah.
but then just like there were some intriguing twists. And then I saw, the characters that I mean, you were inserting into the narrative, and I
Yeah,
just thought it
right.
was like it made me like smile quite a bit.
Oh, thanks. Well,
So
what's funny about that is that like I had never had a beard in my life until that movie, and I grew a beard and grew my hair because I wanted to. I was like, I'm gonna look like William Moore. Like I thought it was like a good I was like, oh, I'm gonna grow a beard and have floppy hair and look like William Moore, and I'll be kind of a William Moore character in this, which I turned out not to be. But I grew the beard and grew my hair floppy, and I have not shaved my beard since. It was all because I wanted to look like William Moore.
you know what? I think
Not
you're
that he's
good.
like my hero or anything, but like I just thought like I've always thought like I could play him. I look close enough to him. I could play him in a movie.
Have you ever met him?
No, I would love to. I've never talked to him. Like that guy's he exiled himself basically. I mean, I think Greg Bishop talks to him, but that's the only person I know who has had any contact with him.
Wow. That
Yeah.
would be interesting. I know that Greg, I mean, what he probably sees him, a few times a year.
Yeah, I don't think he lives in California anymore, but like I think Greg talks to him when he does. I think he's got kids to come back, and Greg will probably have a grilled cheese sandwich with him or something. I don't know. Greg's a cool dude. Everyone loves Greg, man. He's like my UFO mentor. He
is a nice guy. He's been always, and yeah, William Moore. I mean, he's always been, it's just been he's fascinating. He's always been very kind. In fact, he's been to Utah a couple times, and it's
have you met him?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, he's been very dear to me over the years, and I go to California. He's taking me on the tours, and then vice versa and things. And so it's been interesting to meet him and have call him up and talk for hours and hours, and just
wait, are you talking about Greg or William Moore?
Oh God, not William Moore. Sorry, Greg.
Greg, I was like,
you're like, oh, what?
I'm like, William Moore, he's out of hiding. I was like, Elvis is alive.
Besides Greg, I'm the only special person that's
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah.
Dude,
the MJ12 William Moore. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, I think I first not first heard you, but I think I heard you on one of Greg's episodes like years ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago, and I thought, oh, she's great. And then yeah.
Yeah, Greg's a good guy.
Erica Peter's got a good question in the chat room.
Ooh, Peter.
Yeah. So do you then this goes back to the ranch and the movie. And did you have any legal issues with the owners of the people that have that, Kelleher and Knapp and things, and what was your strategy?
There were, and I was totally left out of that. There's like a legal team that handled that. And so but I remember it was after we had shot the film and we were literally editing it in the editing bay. And we got a call from not the lawyer, but I think maybe the financier was like, we got a big problem. We can't call Skinwalker Ranch anymore. And I was like, what? And someone had not, I don't think at the time, I don't think anyone had owned the IP of the name, but someone was in negotiation for it. And I think we just, whoever, they beat him. But now I think the movie's just called Skinwalker. I think they took the ranch part off. So they must have, whoever owns the movie now must have sold the name or something. And maybe they sold to the TV show. Who knows? I have no idea, but wow. And I don't know this for sure. I like, when you work on a movie for so much, I just want to be like done with it. I have not seen it for 10 years. I haven't even hardly thought about it. So actually I got this news from somebody else. They're like, dude, your movie, they changed the title. I was like, oh, well, no one told me. But no one cares about an actor. Trust me. People usually know more about the projects I'm on than I know myself. They just give me the script and say your lines, dummy. So,
well, and speaking of, let's talk about drunk history. I want to get off UFOs for a second and talk about drunk history, because I mean, if you Scott, have you seen Drunk History?
I have not.
Okay, this is your homework.
Is this what is it? A comedy? A movie?
Yeah.
It's a comedy, or it was a show on Comedy Central for 7 years where they get a comedian to get drunk and tell a story from history. So I did it a bunch, and I actually did the Roswell story for one episode. Wow. And I got drunk on bourbon and I told the story of Roswell. Wow. And then while that's going on, they do kind of unsolved mystery reenactments with Will Ferrell and Jack Black and really, really, really big stars. And so, yeah, it was fun. And I'm sorry, what was I can't remember the question.
Yeah, I mean, just
where am I going with it? Oh,
just about the show, because it's I remember seeing it years ago, and I was just like,
yeah. I mean, it's really fun. Derek Waters, who created this show, is an old buddy of mine. I kind of got my start in LA by doing Second City, which is a second. It's out of Chicago, but it's a sketch and an improv theater. And so I met a lot of my comedy friends there, and Derek Waters, who created Drunk History, was one of them. And so he got the show on there, and he was, nice enough to ask me to be in it for every season. So I did some of the reenactments, and then I did a lot of the narration, and it was fun. And what people always ask first, you're faking, you're not really drunk. It's no, you're legitimately drunk. Like they have an EMT on set, or not EMT, but some kind of medical professional who breathalyzes you, and they look at they go, yeah, he's drunk enough, we can start. So like, you know, there's actually a certain point, maybe it's like 0.009 or something like that, then they actually start rolling camera.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So and like I feel like, I mean, I've definitely been drunk in all of them, but some people just get blackout like Bombaducci, you know, and it's fun. It's funny, you know, like some like history professors show in their classes, and like, you know, they're like, my students actually are learning now. You know, like I'm like, whatever it takes.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, I just remember like the Benjamin Franklin. You know, I mean, they're like just some of the. I mean, just some of the episodes are just like. What? I mean, it like I love it, and I'm a big fan of Christopher Guest.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, and I mean, like the Waiting for Guffman.
That's
one
of my that's my favorite of his too. I love Guffman.
God, that is just it's just so brilliant. I love that improv. I mean, it's just like, you know, and then throw in a bottle of bourbon and watch out, people.
I just found the whole series online for free.
Oh, there you go. Boom.
And it is you. Oh my gosh, you got to
watch it. I'll watch.
Yeah. I mean, it's good old fashioned fun, and I think it had like a good 7 seasons and got out where, you know, and no matter how good a show is, it's going to become redundant and start repeating itself. And so I was like, even though I would have loved to have done it forever, I feel like it had such a beautiful run, and I'm really like happy I got to be involved in it.
That is really
and work with friends. It was like I've been lucky enough to like work with my buddies quite a bit, and that's just the greatest thing in the world, you know, because we all kind of came up together early. We were like broke out in LA, like freaking out. None of us were from there or had any connections, and so it's fun, you know, later in life to be able to help each other and like, dude, I'm doing this show, come be on it, and like, you know, that's been like the best reward in terms of this business, because it's a, you know, like any big corporate business, it's, you know, it can be a real bummer too. You know, like, you know,
it's a tough field. Yeah,
it is. That's why I feel like UFOs saved my life, you know, because if I was all in on just the TV movie business, I'd be a sad person. UFOs keep me happy and grounded. You don't hear people saying UFOs keep you grounded very much, right?
Wow.
You can quote me on that.
Thank you. I was going to say that's a quote for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's so like, so what's your favorite like episode if you had to pick?
Oh man, I think the first one I did, which was kind of the story of Orson Welles and Citizen Kane. I love Orson Welles so much, and I actually love Citizen Kane. That one was just so fun because, like, where we realized after we shot it, when we were all, you know, hammered, that it was actually the place. It was at this old hotel downtown LA where they had the first Academy Awards, where Orson Welles accepted it, and no one knew that until I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy!" But that was a special one just because I'm a real big fan of the story of that.
Wow.
So and the Roswell one was fun, but I actually got a lot of flack on that one from like UFO people. Were like, you know, I think in that era I was on Facebook a decent amount, and like people were like comments like, "Dude, it was not like it was," you know, like they were like mad about. And basically, I just said like, "I don't know, it's probably Project Mogul. I don't know." You know, that was kind of how I ended it, because like I don't know. And people were like truly like, "Oh, some actor, huh? Like just putting out like things." I'm like, "What are you guys talking about? I'm just like drunk on a TV show. I'm like, take it easy, man." Trying to have some fun. Can we not laugh at the topic too? Because I mean, like at the end of the day, we're talking about flying saucers. It's funny. It's interesting. I take it as serious as anyone you'll ever meet, but I laugh at it too. I mean, all the time. I think it's very funny.
Yeah, I think that's a healthy approach. I mean, you do have to laugh at it and some things, and you know, I mean, I look at some of the Fate magazines that I have. I always love posting like, you know, advertisements. I wish they're back there, but like I love looking at the advertisements, like literally like girdles for men.
Yeah,
clearly, you know, probably William Shatner was candidate for that. I say that about my old crush, but I do think probably had a good girdle on, you know, in Star Trek.
Good girl goes along. He was very barrel chesty. There might have been a girl situation. I never thought about it, but now I'm gonna have to rewatch. Oh man, there's so many things I need to see. Now I'm gonna watch the original Star Trek again.
I think I think they're. I hate to say that. I'm totally blowing my chances
Yeah.
with Shatner,
Oh,
but
Billy
I
Shat.
know. I think there was a man girdle involved
I
with
mean,
Shatner.
who can blame him? He wants to look good.
He was very proud
Yeah.
man in a girdle, probably.
Proud Canadian man.
I know. What do you think about that? Yeah. Anyway, but I mean, and so okay. So, what are your UFO stuff now? Where are you at? What are you studying? What are you reading?
Gosh, I'm almost kind of like taking not a break. I'm reading like right now. I just finished reading Josh Cutchin's second volume of Where the Footprints End, which is kind of like a paranormal Bigfoot book, which I thought was just like a delicious piece of chocolate cake. I loved it so much, and I'm reading Evan Wentz's book about like fairy history and fairy lore of the Celtic, which is phenomenal. And I just finished reading the Daemonic Reality by Patrick Harper,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of right now I'm really into kind of like historical, what I call historical ufology, but just under the guise of fairy lore. Which I consider those UFO books, really. So
the parallels are just ridiculous.
It's startling, and I'd always heard that. Even when I read Passport to Magonia, I don't think it really like fully hit me until I started reading these old books about fairy lore. And I'm like, oh my lord!
Yeah.
To think that the subject started in with Kenneth Arnold is laughable to me. I mean, that's the fascinating stuff about all this stuff it really just goes back so far. But like again, you hear so often with some of the luminaries, it's like what the cultural lens people had when they were looking at this stuff had an effect on how they defined it. Like the Fatima incident, they all thought it was Mother Mary or the Virgin Mary, but in modern days, that would just be a mass UFO sighting.
Right.
It is fascinating.
It is.
Tell us a little bit more about the Irish, like the fairy lore.
Well, I'm not by any means a scholar. I've known about this stuff, and I thought there was something to it, mostly through secondhand stuff. So it's Joshua Cutchin writing about it, but he sort of prompted me because I wanted more to go back. So there's an Evan and Wentz book, and I have it downstairs, and I cannot remember the title. It's something fairy. It's very famous, and it is wonderful. But it just goes back and talks about a lot of these like fairy encounters, and there's ones that sound exactly like Bigfoot encounters. There's ones that sound exactly like contactee UFO classic ones from the 50s with the same sort of messages, and people are whisked away to another world. I mean, like it's astounding to see, and it's actually kind of shocking to me that this is sort of like a new avenue that's being looked at, even though it's not. Vallee brought it up, obviously, and Keel totally talked about this in the Eighth Tower. It's basically a book about fairies. But yeah, to me, it's just really, you need to really look. Like I feel like UFOs have probably maybe more interested in history than any other topic, and to understand what people were going through culturally when they saw this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The time period where technology was, what was the predominant religion in the area, that all plays a factor that I'm convinced is very like prescient.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, that again, that is so cool. And again, that just reinvigorates me to start looking into some of these other areas again. Because it's all fascinating, and I love Ireland, and I need to.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I need to go over there and look for some little fairy folk.
I would love to do that, right?
And the cute Irishman.
Yeah, hey, why not?
Of course, my friends are like, no, you're locked in a convent.
Stay
okay. That would be good. Really? I have people that would pay for that, actually. So
I think that's what led me down that road too. Was when I read Passport, I began to look into all of that fairy lore and go back and look at those parallels. And I was astounded to find that they were describing this same stuff that's going on today. It blew my mind that it was going on so far back.
I know, man.
And it still blows me away. I still read those accounts and
I
it's
know.
just, it's wild.
And that
Wild.
it's just, that to me is just so much more intellectually fascinating than a senator saying that they're gonna let people know about UFO reports. I'm like, all right, but like after they say that, there's no more discussion to be had other than like, well, we need to make them do this. I'm like, all right, but like, it's like I don't want to sound like too cynical about disclosure and all this stuff, but I worry that if people are getting burned out by the UFO topic, then they're not looking at stuff. They're not looking at different things, because like I could never be bored of this topic ever in 10 lifetimes. I couldn't, like I stress out about not being able to get to everything that I want to get to. So like when people I hear, like, oh, I'm done with this topic, I'm bored with it. And like granted, I'm not in it professionally. So, I'm a sidelines guy. I could never get bored with it, because just when I think I've like learned everything I can about UFOs from 47 to 2021, well, then I find out, what about paranormal Bigfoot? And then that'll send me down a rabbit hole for 6 months, and then what will come out of that? So if you're bored, you're not reading enough, is I guess.
Right. And I mean, it is, yeah, there's so many avenues to go down. And I definitely, thanks again for kind of inspiring me to go look at what I originally loved, about things, and getting out and doing some field research and sitting in a little diner in some funky town. And I remember when I went over to Norway, oh my God, I don't know sometimes what I think, but I had my, video camera there because I was trying to do this, great documentary. And I I approached different people in the airport, and different airports and things over there. And
I cannot believe you went to Hezbollah. That's,
oh my gosh, I cannot wait to go back. Wow. I really can't. I'm putting that on my.
Where in Norway is that actually?
It is up. It's pretty close to the border. It's up at the very top, and it's just you have to go. I mean, I can't even. They're so kind.
Yeah,
and it is so neat to see science actually working, and them not, having this sense of excitement, but then not really clouding it with all of this stuff that goes on here.
So you got to talk with like the people who work there.
Yeah. Wow, I was right
unreal.
there. It was really cool. I was there for 2 weeks, and Erling Strand picked me up from the airport.
Dang.
And was with me. We were there all the time, and I could sit and, I was in the watching them in the blue box and things, which is where all the hub is. And then they have the live cameras, and there was an Italian team there from the university putting up new instrumentation, and there were two actually German. There were German people there, and then 2 Italian scientists, and both of whom work on the world's largest telescope array now. That has been coming out and stuff. And so I was like there, and then the former head of the French space agency. And so I was so crazy because and then all these, these wonderful Norwegian scientists and things. And I'm sitting there at a dinner table with all these people going like, okay.
Oh boy, don't want to say anything stupid.
I mean, I will tell you though, I had my, I'm trying to like film and be all dun dun dun, like on the fly and things while they're setting up instrumentation. And there was one moment I was I'll have to see if I can find this. This would be funny, but I was like crouched down in the bushes, trying to get the dramatic shot of the Italians leaving the blue box and things. And I like tripped over backwards and landed on my back.
Oh,
and like I just remember. Erica, you okay?
Yeah, they're all strong and like we got you. We're Vikings. I'm Norwegian myself.
Oh, I can tell.
There's a lot of us in the Midwest. I went over there when I was a teenager too. It's absolutely one of the most gorgeous places I've ever been. And boy, you get to see. I mean, I'm not trying to be political, but socialism really works for them.
It does.
They're happy.
I mean,
they are happy.
They
do not have to worry about a lot of the stuff we have to worry about, and they get, and focus on some things that are maybe more fun in life.
You know what?
I won't. Yeah, without getting political, I will just say it works really good there.
You know what I mean? I will tell you that that's the one thing that was everything was so clean and people
Yeah.
were happy. I mean, it was
Yeah.
that's just the one thing that I remember. It was very striking
Yeah.
to me, and I loved that. I've got to tell you just one other story. I should never divulge this, but whatever. So, I was, again trying to, I mean, the blue box was very small, and they had to do their work, and so they were in there, and I'm, out in the field looking over the valley and trying to. Oh my God, why am I telling this? Like trying to do some like kind of B-roll footage or whatever.
Sure.
Oh, so I've got my camera set up and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go walking down the field and glance over my shoulder. And then, here I am like like rolling around in the field and like I'm just dumb. I mean, dumb. Like I don't know what. Sometimes I think, really not much. And like I had told, Erling, he's like, well, what were you doing? Well, we were in the blue box. And I'm like, well, I was just rolling around in the field trying to get B-roll footage. And he's like, wait, Erica, you realize there are 24-hour live stream cameras?
Yeah. We got your B-roll.
I'm like, oh,
man,
God.
what an experience, though.
Yeah. Oh God, I hope nobody found footage of that. That would be so scary.
Can I
But
ask can I ask you a quick question? Just because
Yeah.
I've never got to talk to anyone who's ever been to Hezbollah. Pretty cool. Did any of them report anything else weird that wasn't like skybound in the area? Like I don't want to use the word hitchhikers, but like, was there any other kind of high strangeness in that general area that they ever talked about? So I've never heard that, but
Yeah. There, I mean, there was, and it was really, and this is going to spur me again to get this out there. I thanks to Erling, I met a really wonderful man in his 80s that had been there, and there's a great documentary. Oh my gosh, why can't the Hessdalen Lights, I think, and it is, it interviewed the people that were having the initial experiences and that were just traumatized. They were curious. They were wondering what it was, and one of the main characters, the person in the story, I interviewed her brother, and he talked specifically about some of the high strangeness.
really?
And I think specifically one instance where there were reports from people of seeing strange creatures and things. And so, I mean, and it's not one of those things, they don't talk about that a lot because I think it's, they're doing a scientific project, and
it'll
so
deflect from their side. And I understand that too. Like,
there's a certain things that they would look at and enter into the
I mean,
study,
it would fit the patterns, wouldn't it? Like there's one weird thing I shouldn't say usually, because actually I don't know that, but like it seems like fairly often if there's something in the sky, there's something on the ground, like or there's some kind of psychic component that you take home.
Right. And I mean, I definitely think there were weird, I mean, just malfunctions with equipment and I mean, different things that would take place and things, but I think they've pretty much they've done such great work that I don't think they've ever had any of their cameras cut by mysterious hands, human.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Maybe they have, but so it was just, had to throw that one in there, but it was so cool. You've got to go.
Yeah, I really do. That's like on a short list of things for me.
And there's a really wonderful place there where they have these beautiful places you can stay with little fire pits in the middle of them. And what does this mean? They have these glass windows, the domes. Yeah.
Ooh.
And so you can go there and stay, and you can just sit there at night and look through the windows. And then even if you don't see anything strange, it's like, I got to see the Northern Lights.
Heck yes.
And it's like, I mean, standing there and just seeing that in and of itself was like so worth it for me to go.
Oh yeah. It's like, I've kind of learned, I mean, like what you're going, like you don't, if like you go to one of these places and you're like, well, I didn't experience anything. How lame, what a waste. Not at all. The journey and the adventure was awesome. Like I've almost taken expectation out of the equation for myself. Like even when I went to Minersville, of course I was like, well, maybe I'll see a little, residue from the 60s that, Boucher was talking about. But also I'm like, probably not. But to me, like I was telling you, Scott, before we got in there, like these places, I have built up such a mythology to whether the Herbert Schirmer case, if that's totally a hoax, that's almost not even important to me anymore. The place to me is so sacred because I've built it up since I was a little kid that it's this, and obviously I'd be, maybe it is, there's no way to prove what happened there. But, these it's interesting that these locations where these things happen become like holy ground to us UFO heads, like a saucer buff, at least myself, like every one of them. So that's why whenever I try to go to a new place, I'm like, what's the most, what's the strangest thing that's happened in this area? And I must go to it. It's just,
Isn't that cool?
I'm drawn to it. Oh, it's so cool. It's like when you have an obsession like that, life can never be boring. And so I feel so lucky for that, like I'll never be bored. I'll be entertained intellectually until I'm, gone.
I know it's so cool. Like I did that, and I've talked about this on my show before, but it's like I remember like going to the Whaley house, a couple times, and back in the day when you could rent it out, I rented it out, and it was just like that
awesome.
Was so cool to have, all my peeps there, and have the lady say, "Well, good luck to you," and shut the door and turn the lights off. It's like, oh yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. I'm going to the Omaha Indian Reservation, hopefully, like very soon, or probably early in the next year, to go res squatching with the Native Americans because right along the Missouri River, they have. I mean, it's basically kind of what they're reporting and have been reporting for a long time is kind of Skinwalker Ranchy type stuff. Lots of cryptids, little green stick figures, lights in the sky, portals, purple swirling mist in the forest. I mean, like. And I had to go through like an interview process with this tribal elder who leads these things. And they were not like begging for, me to do it. They're like, all right. I had to talk to them twice on the phone. And they're finally like, all right, we'll let you do it. And you have to, we'd ask you to make a small donation to the tribal council. Absolutely. And I'm going to go out with a bunch of strangers and camp out in the forest. And I'm so excited about it.
Oh, that's wow.
Yeah. It's really like a dream come true. And I'm like equal parts nervous and like kind of scared. And like, because a lot of people who go out on these little expeditions with them, they're people who, and almost everyone comes back saying something really bizarre happened. And a lot of people are very unsettled by it. Kind of come out of it going, oh my Lord, like that was a little more than I wanted, like, so maybe I'll get my experience. Cross your fingers for me.
At least you'll have a good time, though.
And
you get to be around new people and be out in the middle of nowhere. And I love that. It's just, I remember that, like even, being in Norway, because it was just such a special time in my life, but just like going out there in the middle of the dark. I've never been, in this terrain before. I mean, granted, not the best with my night vision, but just like, going out there and walking out into the middle of nowhere and just going, oh, yeah.
I think that's my favorite part is not the research and the doing all this other stuff. It's being out there with the cameras and just looking up at the sky. It's my favorite part.
I'm with you, Scott. That to me, it's the childlike wonder that I will never ever lose. If I lose that part of my love for this stuff, then maybe it's time for me to move on to a new thing to be obsessed with. But that will never happen. Like this summer, a couple of friends and I, we're going to go to the Marley Woods. You heard Ted Phillips area? Because that has been, hey man, you can go. Like, I mean, I'm serious. Like, you can fly into St. Louis, but we, now they've released the location where this was. Ted Phillips kept it secret for decades, right? And I love reading about the Marley Woods because there is a lot of good data and trace samples that, because that was kind of his bailiwick, Ted Phillips. But yeah, I am going to go out there for a couple of days and camp out and just, bring it on.
Ted sent me a DVD a few years ago. It has about a dozen clips on it that they shot out there. Really? Made me promise not to put it out online or anything. and it is just mind-blowing. I mean, I watched it over and over again. It's only probably 20 minutes long altogether, all the clips, but wild stuff. Wild
I need
stuff.
to, Dave Stinnett actually sent me a copy of that.
Really? How? If you're out there listening, I would love a copy. I'll pay for it. I will pay for it. Shipping, handling, lunch, whatever you want. I'll move
Dang.
I'll move
I need
I'll
to
move the
watch that
couch. I have a
again.
strong back.
Oh, that's going to be a blast going out there.
Oh, it would. I mean, like, and the thing is, there's, I mean, like, because, and I think about this a lot, and maybe is, what happened to all Ted's research?
His wife, he was in the process of writing a book, and it obviously didn't come to fruition because he passed away. But
Right.
I spoke to his wife Ginger soon after he died, and she was telling me that she wanted to get somebody together to help her put all his research into either a documentary or a book form. So
Yeah. Even,
I don't know what's going to happen with it.
Even a good place to start, just so it can be safe, is a local university.
Right.
Like people do that with their life, with all the data they have. If they have no one to leave it to, it's like, give it to a university, and anthropology department may pick it up and preserve it. I have like this big stress about losing about some of these people. Like Ted Phillips, what was he sitting on? Probably an immense amount of really important stuff. He was the guy for. I mean, he was Hynek's right-hand man for trace evidence. I don't think there's any UFO researcher who probably even has as close to as much data as he had. And I hope it's safe, and I hope we can all learn from it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that a lot of what he did, he's much more of an important researcher than is even, looked at, because he was gathering all these cases where the environment was affected, and just real good solid evidence.
Yes. So, yeah, and like in kind of like some of the other hot spots, it was a bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe still is, like I and that's kind of the thing. I'd actually reached out to Michael Huntington, who's a Missouri researcher.
Yep, he's been on here
because
before.
he knew Ted, and he had been down there, and I was like saying, I think he had mentioned that, and I just kind of like fanboyed him on Twitter, it's like, oh my God, you've been to the Marley Woods. But hopefully, maybe he'd be willing to give me some choice locations to try to set up camp at, because
Michael does that with his family. He travels all over to those places.
I know, it's pretty cool, man. I follow him on social media, and I'm like, dude, you're doing it, dude. I'm so jealous of him.
I know.
That's what I love to do
world
with
of
my life.
him. He is so cool.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
So why, Peter wanted me to ask you, why would they keep the release details of the location secret for so many years? And that's because people were living there.
Ted, and Scott, maybe you could answer better, but like, as far as I know, he was, had, even though he wasn't a journalist, but had this journalistic integrity that he did not, the farmers and the ranchers and the people who lived there did not want their names out. And they did not want a bunch of reporters and UFO people coming in and trampling through their property. So Ted's like, look, I know you'd all love to know where this is. In the Marley Woods, that's a fake name. It's actually, I can't remember where it is. It's like an hour from Cape Girardeau, I believe. But yeah, it was he gave a fake name location, and that frustrated a lot of people, myself included at the time. But now that I'm a little older and have, hindsight, I'm like, oh, I understand. He had integrity, so it's actually a really cool thing he did. And now we know where the location is, but I haven't heard of anyone going out there and doing any kind of work out there. So I'll let you know. You can. I'll come back on the show and report.
Well, and that brings up, another great point to me about Skinwalker Ranch. If this was such a top secret, location, and there was this, government study and things, why in the crap are you writing a book about it, or letting a news story be released? Or a series of news stories that just seems.
It's all very curious. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, what is in, like, it's like, what's the motivation behind any of this stuff, right? Behind December 17th, 2017, the New York Times. What's the motivation behind that? It's, to me, I'm like, well, I don't think they think, well, guys, they've been really at it for so many years. It's finally time to tell them, that UFOs are real. I don't think it's that. It's like, are they getting ahead of something? Or, I just don't know. Like, it's just pure speculation. And who knows? Erica, you're back.
I had to sneeze.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's very
I
polite.
just figured, I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing. The one time I
Yeah.
actually knew how to mute my mic and take me off the screen. So I mean, I knew this was going to be so much fun.
Yeah,
Talking to you and
been
just
a real treat.
And I mean, you've got to watch, Drunk History.
Oh,
and
thanks. Yeah.
Skinwalker.
Oh yeah, I'm
It's,
gonna watch it.
I mean,
Check it out.
I freaking love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I think
Yeah,
it's
So, Steve, one more question from me.
Please.
So, with your interest and
Yeah.
your the movie that you already made and wrote and everything,
Yeah.
do you have any plans down the road to maybe do another film in that genre?
I don't know. It's I honestly, for selfish reasons, I'm in development right now on a show that would be, it's kind of a doc series of me going around to go to these places like Marley Woods.
Oh man!
And so I cannot talk about that, unfortunately. COVID has, we shot a pilot episode for it. It turned out great, and then we finished it, and we had all these meetings set up, and literally like COVID started, and they're like, "Well, it should only be probably a couple weeks." Cut to all this time later. So I'm hoping, later in the year, fingers crossed, if COVID starts to calm down, people will want to buy a show based on travel again. But right now, pitching a show about like going all over the country, there'd be like, it's just a tough sell right now.
Right.
So I love this idea and love the show so much. I'm willing to wait a little bit more, and I'm always doing other stuff. I write a lot and audition for other projects, but what I really truly want to do is kind of go look into this stuff. And I'm actually I've been going out to these sites like Minersville and shooting myself. And I think just for fun, I'm gonna start releasing them on YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone might get some value out of it. I don't know if
totally
it's
should.
It's
You
not
totally should.
Yeah, it's not a money-making venture or anything like that. Maybe it'd be cool if I did, but I think it's gonna be one of these things where I don't know, maybe 9 people find it interesting. I know I would.
Seriously, I would find it. I would love that.
Oh, I would love it.
I'll let you know when I do. Yeah, because
So
I've been
cool.
shooting a lot of these, and so I have someone who's going to kind of edit them a little bit. They're very guerrilla. It's me with my phone. I'm going, I'm at Minersville. There was
You got to see the
here.
Hilden Hirschtallen.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is with technology, you don't have to have the best equipment in the world. I mean, my iPhone takes really high. It's just a very basic phone, and it looks great.
Yeah.
So just invest in a little sound equipment, and maybe people want to go on some adventures with me. Or not.
I think so. I would. I totally
My
would.
new buddies will.
Exactly.
You guys will watch it.
We will watch it again and again and again.
Yeah.
Maybe tonight I'll have a little drunk history and
there you
Skinwalker thing again.
Oh my God, you doing a drunk history on Skinwalker would be delightful.
Oh, well, actually.
It would be great. Or it would get sounds like no.
Because she won't behave.
Yeah.
She won't behave.
It'll be highly censored. There'll be. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, okay. Just I'm thinking. Could be interesting.
Let the wheels turn.
I know, could be interesting, but this has been so much fun.
It's been a treat.
I'm so stoked to have you on.
Well, yeah, it's super fun
awesome.
to hang with you guys. Well, you guys are both great. I mean, honestly, it's so nice to talk to people, so smart and knowledgeable and open-minded like yourselves. It's a real treat. I feel like I probably don't fit into the whole UFO grand scheme of things in many places, but I feel very comfortable with you guys.
Good.
Nice.
So
we have
really,
a place here with us.
Oh, thanks. It's nice to meet new. I got new UFO buddies, and that means a lot to me.
Well, man, it is fun, and that to meet people that are like-minded and grounded, but adventurous, and and finding that that joy in things again is really cool. And Northern says he'll buy the wine, so there could be a.
Hey, all right, you're in.
Scott's
I'll drink whatever.
He's just encouraging her.
Yeah.
Encouraging bad behavior. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's something to think about. So thank you. And I want to, and so we'll follow you. And when you release any of your exploits, please let us know.
Oh, I will.
And have a wonderful time looking for Bigfoot and going on that new
I'm
adventure?
looking for high spirit. To me, it's all the fae folk now. I'm out there looking for fae folk, the good people, the gentry.
Sweet. Let me know
It's
how it
fun.
goes and
Yeah,
stay safe.
exactly.
You
I
know,
will. Hey,
there's a new series that just started on Netflix. I think it just dropped a few days ago. It's called
elves? Something
yes,
elves? I
yes.
I saw a trailer for that, and I'm going to watch that.
I watched the first 2 episodes, and it's pretty good. I like
Is
it.
it real? Well, it's dealing with stuff I like. So if they do the subject matter halfway, decent, I'll be in.
Yeah, and there's also a movie, if you've ever seen it. It's called The Hallow.
No.
It's HALLOW, and
HALLOW.
he goes in and he rents this cottage with his wife and the baby, and he's some kind of environmentalist, and the spirits of the forest get angry,
Oh yes.
and you got to see it. It's a great movie.
Okay,
Great.
I mean, you had me at Spirits in the Forest.
Yeah,
I think
gotta
there's
see
something
it.
to it,
That's a
man.
good one. That's a good one.
Well, look, I'm interested in the Gaia hypothesis to all this stuff. It's that's a fun one.
Yeah.
That's a fun one. Well, y'all, this was so fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
letting me
you.
hang out
Thank
with you on
you.
a Friday night. What
Absolutely.
a
Go have
treat.
fun with your family, and I will
Nice
send
to
you the
meet
link, and all you guys, thank you so much for being here and supporting the show. You can go to UFO Classified. Bye, Steve. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. You can go to ufoclassified.com and check it out and subscribe, donate to the show, and make sure you subscribe and like and things. I'm really bad at doing this shameless self-promoting, but subscribe, like, share. Please, that would be fantastic. We love you guys. And Scott, my best to you. And thank you, Mario, because you freaking just are the best. And I love it. So thanks, you guys. And hopefully we're going to end the broadcast. Well, I don't know what we're doing. What are we doing? Are we trying to do the outro? The credit reel,
so.
the new one. Oh, God. Okay. God save the queen and the planet. Welcome to the seventh son of the apocalypse right here. Good night, you guys. We'll catch you next week.